The last several ones were through streaming, and those worked pretty good, but they had some delays, and I couldn't see people's faces. And so I really wanted to engage with people and ask people questions and go on from there. And I want to introduce everyone to Mark Gambale. And he has a last name that sounds very Italian, and I'm not Italian at all, and I have a last name that sounds Italian as well, like Hippolito. So I was talking to him earlier. I said it sounds like we could open up an Italian restaurant or something, for their last names and everything. So I met Mark through my system, and we have a system, and it's kind of a brand new type thing that we're doing now, and it's very versatile. It's salesfocus.ai, and it allows you to do multiple things at the same time. And we're actually incorporating Scoop. And so it reached out to him. Then I did a personalized video, and we were talking. And I said, "Oh my goodness, you're a sales coach." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm a sales coach with close in one call. It was a close in one sales call." And I said, "Oh, very interesting." And we were talking, and I said, I'm very good at developing systems to drive appointments and interest and all that sort of thing, but I'm not an expert at closing the deal. And so I met with Mark, and he was happy to support us on the show here. Mark, would you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? 'Cause I'm Troy, the not so boring LinkedIn guy. Everyone knows me, and Mark is the shining star for today.
Thanks, Troy. It's great to be here with everyone. And it's funny how you talk about the familiar last names. I grew up in Boston and I should have an accent, but I left it there and I'm in Denver now. And I'm either in Denver or Green Bay. But what's interesting is I come to this as been a product manager and a market research analyst for years. And I was always measured on how do you get people to a booked appointment and then how do you get the revenue? And so a lot of what I've done is teaching people how to close $10,000 deals, 50,000. And one of the ones I closed was now at this point, it's up to 100 million in global revenue over like 14 years. So I love systems like what you're talking about, Troy. Systems work. They get people to a call, and then with the right close with one mindset, which I learned by teaching 1,500 people, this makes like an end-to-end piece that just puts dollars in the bank.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. It's very powerful. Another thing too is we have a couple of door prizes, and Lisa, if you can add it to the chat. I think it's on the last page there. And there's a couple of things we're going to be giving away. If you're not already Scoop users, we have a brand new version of Scoop that's came out. It's 1.1.4, kind of nerdy to say that, but it includes the ability to create content. And we actually open it up to Facebook, or we open it up to Instagram. And if you don't know what Scoop is, it allows you to do personalized videos, voicemails, and animated GIFs and things that add personality to your conversation. And it's pretty powerful. I know that Mark's just start using it, but the new version allows you to actually generate content out of a single query or single sentence, or allows you to restructure your content for your LinkedIn post. And you can reply back on posts and comments, DMs, email, you name it. And it's our new product, and we actually got put on AppSumo as a distributor, and we actually are growing. So I've been in the midst of doing a lot of web stuff on that, and it's you can see I'm kind of tired sometimes, but that's just kind of how it works. So that's the free sales communication software. So what I'm gonna do is share my screen and show you this here. And we'll give a free copy of that as a 14-day. I would urge you guys to do that for that. What you need to do is go to the demo page and just go ahead and get it. We have a special code for perks. I don't think we don't need that because you have a free version. And we have a PDF for this event. We'll let you know a little bit later. And there is a book And Mark has created a book called Close in One Sales Call, and he's giving it away for free, and group consultation on business strategies and systems and things of that nature. And so we'll mention that in the middle of the presentation, at the end of the presentation. But if you want to book a session, feel free to do that. And Lisa, you can add that to it. And if you get the Scoop app demo, we'll give you access to all that. If you have Scoop already, just put it in the chat. I already have Scoop, and we'll go ahead and give you all those things because we have you on your email in the Zoom. So, Mark, I know that we've known each other probably for about 6 months, and we've had a couple sessions, probably like 3 or 4 or 5 sessions, I think. And we wanted to talk about again how to drive booked meetings, and but also how to close those meetings. And I was trying to get to the slides here. I'm gonna go in presentation mode. And by the way, can everyone see my screen? Well, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in share mode and get started. All right, so it's how to get booked meetings and how to close deals. My guest speaker, Mark Gambale, has a lot of experience in actually closing the deal. And a lot of that stuff is strategy, I believe. And it's about a lot of your other stuff prior, building that rapport and building that relationship and then framing, the call. He'll definitely get to that. Well, it kind of is. I mean, who else are we to blame but ourselves? But everything can be improved greatly. And so we're going to focus on strategies, systems, and how to provide value. So we want to increase vetted book meetings, and then how to close a deal on one call. Mark, would you want to explain what that means on one call?
Yes. So once you have someone on a call from a system like Scoop, and you've got them at the beginning of the call and the conversation, it's how you actually narrate what's going on. No slides, no demo. It's asking one really good question, which is, why are you here today? What can I help you with? Like, what's the reason you joined me? When you flip it to them, all of a sudden they feel like you're serving them and they go, wow, this is a call that I'm glad I joined. I mean, how many calls have you guys been on where the rep immediately says, let me show you my slides and here's my demo? Wow. Usually when that happens, that prospect goes, why did I join this call? How do I get off of it? Maybe I'll just ask for, oh, can you give me your pricing? And my people will talk to your people. That's all code for they just want to get you off the phone. So yeah, it's how you start the call is literally leads to how you're going to end the call. I'll give you a for instance. After you're talking and someone says, hey, this is the reason I joined the call, and you share evidence as to how you can support that. If you guys remember the movie Dumb and Dumber, where Jim Carrey says, what are the chances of a guy like you and a girl like me ever being together? It is very fair to ask your prospect, hey, we just met and I don't know everything I should about your company, but what are the chances of you hiring me based upon what you know about me so far? 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely, I'm going to hire you, and one being, who are you again? What's this about? They're probably going to give you maybe a 5 or a 6, and that's totally okay. And this is when you can ask them, what would make me an 8 or a 9? And that prospect can say, well, I don't know. It doesn't sound like you have integration to Salesforce and HubSpot. And maybe that's the one thing you didn't say. And then you're able to say, actually, I have those two things done, or by the end of next week, we'll have it done. And then you can go back to them and say, all right, well, with that, what are the chances of buying from me now? And they're just going to tell you honestly, because you've asked them, hey, you might not like me at all, but what would make you like me and want to buy from me today?
Correct me if I'm wrong. I am not a sales expert at all. But I try my best by just being me. And I think people like that portion, a certain bit of them. I believe 80% of the decisions is not if you are better at doing something than someone else. That's a factor. But I think 80% is really, do I like this person enough where I can trust them? And then passing that litmus test in order to move on. Um, Also, another thing I would really, I was watching recently, and it's on a lot of social media on sales calls. They actually use in a negative instead of a positive. Things like is now a bad time? And I would have never have thought of saying that instead of saying now is a good time because people are they feel comfortable in saying no and they don't feel comfortable in always saying yes right away. And that's a huge thing. I thought about that. That makes sense. And it's a defense mechanism. So if you can run a negative conversation, it really makes sense.
Here's a
Um,
good example of it, Troy, that I was taught recently. And it was, would you be opposed to sharing your calendar link with me? And they're usually like, no, I wouldn't be opposed to it. So here it is. And then you have their calendar link, and you could pick a time and say, I just found a time for us Tuesday at 2. I look forward to chatting with you then. You didn't have to share your calendar and worry whether they were going to click on it or not. You got theirs, and you're leading them into the answer, which is why they gave you the calendar link in the first place.
yeah, that's a very good point. And I'm gonna go ahead and ask everyone to feel free to interrupt us to ask questions. This is a more intimate group here. I guess because LinkedIn is not sharing the links or whatever's happening. And so feel free to ask any questions you have, and I'll continue on the slides. And so there's one thing called the UBP. It's the unique buying point, and it's the kind of the trifactor factor of three different things. And what those are is your strategy, your systems, and your value. And when those things cross over, you have your unique buying point. And so let's talk about what systems are. Systems are like our sales focus system. It runs LinkedIn direct messages, connections, InMail. It can run text. It can have an AI in there that replies for you. It can go connect to your CRM. Those are systems, even creating content, if you have a schedule, it's sort of a system. Systems can actually go and automate to check who's engaging your post and send them a message saying, "Hey, I noticed you engaged in my post about A, B, and C." And so these are things that happen. They're vehicles. Strategy is more along the line of what Mark is talking about. Um, what are you doing on the call? And then some of the systems, why are we using the systems? So there's a dozen things that we can do all at once. But if you turned everything on, could you really manage it? Probably not. So I always suggest have, at least three different systems happening. I have content going out, and then I have outreach on LinkedIn, and then I also have email. And so I use those on a normal basis, and my calendar gets filled quite quickly once I get into a flow. And some of my systems are very manual. For example, I did a post the other day about texting people, right? And so my Scoop application here, I created a request for projects. So I have an IT company and I bring in projects. I started this just 2 weeks ago. I created a message. I created a Scoop video. And the Scoop video was the recording of the whole screen, and it was just showing off my portfolio. I just told them that I completed some projects and I'm open for work. Now, the strategy was who did I send it to? And so what I did was I hit copy here, and then I have an Apple computer and an Apple phone. I hit paste, and of course, I changed the name here, and I hit send. I sent out probably a total of 30 between 2 weeks. It wasn't a lot of volume, but it was people I knew and people that I did work from. So I want to target my low-hanging fruit manually. And that resulted in about a 25% reply rate Um, I've already had I have a meeting tomorrow for a very large project. I think it's about a 6 month IT project with the whole team. And I have other meetings set up. So I have probably like out of 30, I have 6 meetings being set up already. And so this was one method of a system where I did manually. So not everything is automatic. And so that means a lot of money. One client could be worth my profit maybe 50K or $100,000, depending on the project, or it could be $1,000 profit, depending on, if it's a $4 or $5,000 IT project, I may get, 25% of it or whatever. But the point is, that's systems with strategy. Now, value is an entirely different thing. Is why do people like you? Why are people looking at your content? And what pain are you solving or at least reducing? And so everyone has a pain, and everyone has what they perceive as value. Sometimes value could be like, I just like what this guy is doing. And by liking him, I could run recommendations for what he's doing. I mean, he may not be a client, or they have a problem, say, booking meetings or creating a system to have conversations in order to book meetings. That may be a pain. Another value could be content that solves these little problems over time. And then they see your content over, 3, 4 months, they may make a decision to work with you, after that point. Now, when you're looking for meetings, you want to figure out what your ideal customer is, ideal customer profile, your ICP. Um, who are they? Who, and the worst answer that I hear is everyone's my customer. So you have to be very specific so you can target those individuals, and because those individuals typically have the same pain. The other thing is, how do they consume information? In other words, where are they at? Are they at networking meetings? Do they respond to email? Do they engage on LinkedIn? So if you are targeting, say, LinkedIn, and they're all on TikTok, then maybe you're targeting the wrong channel. And then again, how do we provide value, which we kind of gone through already. And so these are multiple systems, and these are just concepts, and I'll show you some visuals. So automation is a big thing. AI is a big, huge thing coming in. What people forget is the personalization. So automation goes out, AI does some of the conversations or some of the work for you. And then the personalization is really what separates you from other people. And so we have systems that combine all these things, and they could use email. You can use InMails for LinkedIn, mobile text, like I explained earlier. You can connect with people on LinkedIn. You can send people that you're already connected with messages. You can create a post and a system to engage, grab engagement for the post. And some of this is a system where they say, oh, 50 people liked your post. Well, then you have an opportunity to reach out to those 50 people. I'm just giving you an example. Who viewed your profile? This is a no-brainer. The people who viewed your profile, if you look at who they are, you can connect the dots to see, do I want to send a message out to this person because they're examining, what I do and how I do it. And then personalization is what you do with these channels. Scoop again does these personalized videos in a very compact way, so you can go from one person to another. Allows you to have messages pre-formatted so you can make quick changes, and then it allows you to target that individual and just hit send. So it's pretty powerful in that respect. And also, if you tie it with the automation, it's even more powerful. So you get the best of both worlds. And so this separates you from other individuals. Why these systems, if they're set up right, they do their job well. And I'll show you one other little thing too. So this is the back end, and this is an example of a campaign. And so I had about a 49% acceptance rate. Believe it or not, and this goes to Judy, women get better conversions than men. So I had to work very hard for this 49%. I've seen some women that getting like 90% acceptance rate. So that means I have to work twice as hard, and I think it's because most of the men are buyers, and when they see another guy, it's automatically competition. So I think that's why women have a leg up in some respects in that area. So this is a simple connection campaign. Um, I send a connection. I view the profile. I verify the data. I strip the data, make sure I get a better email. I move it somewhere else. I have a gap of time, 5 days. I do my personalization beforehand. So I get a gap of time and I just say, thank you for connecting. And I know you do A, B, and C. And I'm not sure how I can help, but I have an awesome network. Feel free to take a look at my profile. And if you see any dots to connect, feel free to send me your booking link and I'll schedule some time on your calendar. And with that, using Scoop, I get a 20% conversion rate, 20% conversion rate on one single step, not the whole system. And then you can move to another message and move to email and that sort of thing. Another thing is certain campaigns may be different. Let's look at this masterclass. I just changed this, and you could have a tree. You can determine, do I want to engage automatically in their stuff? Do I want to move to the email? Do I want to check if they're an open profile? And you can create a tree on that, and do a lot of different functionality over time. And so there's a lot that can happen. There's a lot that can happen, and you can dial it in where you can get more meetings and you can dial it back where you get less meetings. So this is where I'll let Mark take over. And so we talked about systems. Before we continue, does anyone have any questions or suggestions on systems? Because anything can be a system, and even your profile. So my profile is designed to get a lot of views. I tend to get about 1,800 views a week. And so everything is a channel. And if you have any questions on channels itself, definitely let me know. Does Sales Focus tool only work with if connected to your LinkedIn account? Well, the way Sales Focus works, it doesn't have to connect people. It can work on LinkedIn, and it does work on your LinkedIn account, but it can send out in-mails, for example, and you don't have to be connected. It can do whole email campaigns by itself, just by your Sales Navigator search. So it uses LinkedIn as an avenue of gathering data. So you can, but it's not necessary. Concern is LinkedIn suspending account. No, it's not detectable. So the system that we use is very safe, and it doesn't do but so much volume. So I've never had a client get kicked out. I've had a client that had to reset his PIN code, but LinkedIn does that arbitrarily. Let's see. Yes. If LinkedIn can detect that, they will. There's certain protections that happen, and this is kind of nerdy, but we have an IP address. We validate that IP address. We have limiters that detect the information that goes on it, that goes out. So there's only a certain amount of volume that goes out, and there's systems that not connected to LinkedIn. For example, say you want to email someone. Well, you have a limit of 250 emails maximum a day, right? Well, it has nothing to do with LinkedIn, right? And then LinkedIn looks at how much is really going out and if it seems automated. So the system actually, let me just show this. And we can go through this a little bit later. But what we do is we set the accounts up based on either best practices or what you can end up getting away with. You can run on weekends and that sort of thing. But it runs a warm up as well. So if you're just starting your email or even LinkedIn campaigns, you want to warm it up where things are a little slower. It has other protections as well, like a blacklist. So the blacklist is not a bad thing, but over the years, if people say no thanks, I add them to the blacklist because I don't want to ever accidentally send them a message. So we have warm up, and then it also goes based on your SSI score. So it knows what it can get away with and what it can't get away with. So hopefully that makes sense. Thanks, Judy. I'll go back to the slides here. All right. So, Mark, you want to take it over?
Yes, thank you, Troy. And I want to build on what you've just said, which is the personalization piece. Buyers only go with the person that really made them think differently about things. And what I mean by that is if you get them to reshape their thinking about the value of what they're going to get, and you ask really good questions, that's going to be one of the biggest differentiators for them picking you versus everyone else. I mean, think about it. Imagine going through 10 pitches and they're all the same. They're boring. There's 5,220 slides. And it's a long demo, and halfway through something breaks. Unlikely that they're going to remember you other than that your demo broke and that you were dreadfully boring. So this personalization piece that Troy talks about is essential. Otherwise, they'll just think of your message as noise. But
Yeah.
once you do get on the call, the concept of close with one means that you're so relational during the beginning, middle, and the end of the call that they say, wow, I like this guy. I trust them. And I would go to dinner with them. You have to get them to like you so much because you've given them the ability to share their story. And when I say close with one, it doesn't mean a contract has popped up during that call. What it does mean is when you give them the invite to that next call while you're on the call, when they hit RSVP, they've already subconsciously decided, I think I'm going to buy from this person. I will definitely join that next meeting. And so you as a rep or a marketing person, you don't have to send those multiple just following up or did you see my pricing? All that crap goes away because when you use the close with one mindset, they already just want to keep going and following your lead. I don't know about you, but I don't like to write those. Thank you for our meeting today. Here's my pricing, writing all that stuff. Honestly, it's a waste of time. They're not even going to look at it 9 times out of 10. So, what would you rather have? Someone decide at the end of the call they want to buy from you and not ghost you? Or do you like to send 5 or 6 follow up emails and join multiple pitches?
Yeah, I think part of it is how do you stand out in the perspective of value in their mind? This person is valuable to me because he has not just a product that's not exactly like anything else, but I think people want to know that when they work with someone, that they're just not going to be left alone to their own devices. And so if they get a sense that, oh, I really trust this person and I think he'll actually show up and help me get where I'm going. Because there's a lot of shysters out there. A lot of people sound very good and they you need a differentiator. And that personalization is that. Because if everyone's always doing automation by itself, it doesn't really distinguish you any differently than anyone else. So,
Yes. And I want to build on that. Imagine if we're all using the same automation tools, the same AI. Guess what? Close rates might actually go down because everything sounds the same. But when you personalize the right way with the right content, you're going to stand out and close rates for you and your team are going to increase while everyone else just sounds like me too and noise. So, which would you rather have? Would you like to be remembered or just doing a lot of busy work that shows up in Salesforce but doesn't mean anything at all?
yeah, and there are a ton of systems that you can use. And just because people are using the same system doesn't mean they're using it in the same way. For example, I talked about my texting. This is a super manual, and I use Scoop, to set that up, create the video, change the names, and just manually do that. But there's a very newness, a very novelty about that. So if someone, for example, knows me and they did work with me 10 years ago, oh, Troy did some really cool work 10 years ago. I got a text from him and he sends me a little video. I send the text, it has a little video in it. I'm like, oh. let me click on this and take a look at it. And that actually generates business almost immediately. Some of these systems take a little longer, but maybe someone like me, connections aren't as important. I already have 30,000 connections, right? But maybe the in-mail is more important. So I could use the in-mail feature to help with the registration events. Or say I don't have an event and I have a new company page and I want to drive an idea to the company page, and you have a simple ask. You say, would it be okay if you followed my page? It does this. It talks about technology and sales, and it's either a yes or no, and so it really depends on your strategy behind that, and with these individual systems there.
Yeah, matter of fact, Troy, I like your story of saying this is someone that I worked with 10 years ago. Recently, I reached out to someone that I worked with 20 years ago, and I remembered one specific thing about her. And by
Hmm.
writing that and personalizing it, I was able to capture the attention. But you need that help. You need the lift of, well, what's that content and that little story that pulls them in? And that person said, tell me, like, what are you about? What are you doing now? And it's just kind of being human in a very automated and creative way. And I like how you said standing out and being something that's novel. That's a big deal right now.
I think people appreciate when you get your hands dirty, because if everyone is using automation and AI and stuff, it is a standard tool. Whether what channel you're using may not be standard, but it's a standard way of reaching out. And so if you can, engage in that very personal way, it's super important. I know we had a couple other slides here, and the next slide is you said 9 out of 10 of these reps kill more deals. How is your sales team showing up? And you have a bunch of faces. Can you explain what I'm looking at here?
Yes. So the concept here is that most of the time, the way the salesperson is showing up is just off. It's not really what the buyer wants. And so when you look at all these expressions, most of the time, this is how the prospect is feeling about the rep. Oh, I can't believe I joined this call. I'm already scratching my head because they're not even talking about what I care about. How are they showing up and being perceived? And most often, when you show up the wrong way and it's all about you, you've killed the deal pretty quickly. And it's really the top 3% of reps, maybe the max of 5 or 9 that actually get this. And they
Mhm.
know the techniques of having someone like you and trust you within the first like 33 seconds. And so I often train people. I look at how they appear on the call and how they behave and study their body language along with the buyer. And I can see, well, what are the reactions and what should they be doing instead?
So this is really about how the sales rep that's trying to close a deal shows up. And I have a lot of problems with it. I'm definitely not in 5%. I'll be honest with you. I have eye contact issues. I know that because I tend to think as I'm talking, so my eyes move around. And that's very disturbing for some people. With Go High Level, yes, it
So
can.
here's a for instance. Let's
It can integrate it into Go High Level, and it's called Sales Focus. We changed the name from Integrate to I think Sales Focus is a better name. But anyway, go ahead.
No, that's great, Troy. I like what you said is eye contact is a challenge that I have with people. What's really interesting is that I'm looking at you all right now, but if I look down at the slides or I look at a second screen or I look at my phone, all of a sudden your connection with that person is dying. You're not looking at them and recognizing their reactions. The trust goes down. I mean, can you imagine being at dinner with someone and they're right across from you and you're talking to them, but you're talking this way? When
Right.
they're like, I don't like this person. I don't trust them. They won't even give me their attention. And then they just block me with all these slides and a long demo without asking me what I want to see. So that eye contact and that talk ratio time can kill it.
Let's talk more about the talk ratio time. That's a new concept.
So we're all familiar with the Fathom recorders and everything that gives us the, oh, this is what's talked about.
Uh-huh.
But in some of those tools, you can see this talk versus listen ratio. If you're talking more than 10 or 15%, then they're going to go, oh, I don't like this person. They're not listening to me. It's like when you go out on that date with someone and they talk the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
you're looking for, hey, where's the restroom? Or I'm definitely going to say, yeah, so I'll call you. That's what happens in sales calls is if you talk too much,
Mm-hmm.
they don't really want to work with you.
I think I have that problem as well because I have information. No, no, I'll be honest. This doesn't hurt. I don't have any feelings to hurt. So I have an odd personality. I have probably like the 1 in 10 people. So where a lot of people like being led in a way where they think they come up with the idea, that concept. I'm quite opposite. I'm like, if you have the information, I know you have the information. I want you to give me the information. You're not going to hurt my feelings, you know? And so I'm totally different. And I'm just built, certain people are built this way, but eye contact is a major thing because I'm thinking as I'm talking. And so I just, it's natural for me not to do that. And the other thing is that I provide a lot of information at once. And that's, something because I'm a technical person. And most people aren't technical. They're not. They just need to understand the high level and what steps they need to get done in order to be successful in whatever.
And I want to build on that as it relates to what we do today in conventional sales. Slides themselves are being used as a one-on-one tool. However, when the first PowerPoint slide or even overhead projector was used, that was a professor talking to 500 students in an auditorium, and they would just write on there what they wanted to do for math. PowerPoint is not at all designed for a one-on-one thing. That's one to an audience.
Mm-hmm.
When we're selling to an audience of one, two, three, or four, PowerPoint gets in the way.
So less is better.
When I train people, I say there is no PowerPoint. Don't even bring it up. Just
Mm.
have this kind of communication. Otherwise, you're not going to get there. There will be a time, though, when they say, can I see this one thing? Okay. Then show them the one thing. I
Mhm.
want to see it.
So unless it's a technical explanation, there's no real use for slides, unless you're just conveying a particular idea. So you may have 2 lines of text and the guy thinking like that one slide we have, where it's a conversation starter, where like this one right here, it's something we can talk about. Don't worry, it's not your fault. Well, it kind of is, you know, and so I think that might be a good slide. And I know we're talking about some technical things. That's why the other slides are there. But less is better. And this is basically what you're saying on the one-on-ones.
Yeah. So, for instance, for today, we could have asked everyone two questions.
Hmm.
What is your booked call rate? So, let's
Hmm.
just say you did 50 outreaches. What percentage of those
Well,
outreaches?
hold up. Let's do that right now. Let's go ahead in the chat and put that down and go ahead and ask a question mark.
So, what is your booked call rate?
And what does that mean?
So, it means when you reach out to someone and you say, hey, what percentage of them will actually book a call with you? So, we're seeing some in the channel, maybe 15%.
Yeah.
I know it's pretty interesting because we do all this work, but what comes out of the yield? Like, what is our harvest? And so I'm seeing some people say 10%, which is really interesting. But now, what would you say your close rate is? So let's just say you did 20 sales calls, or someone on your team did 20 sales calls or pitches in a week.
Hmm.
Roughly, like what percentage of those, or how many would close? Is it one or two? Is it three or four?
Of the close rate.
Yeah, what is your actual closed one rate?
So that's interesting. Caesar says 10% is Caesar, is that your close rate or that's your rate for a direct message to a reply. Like it depends on the model in your business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give a couple examples. I have two meetings. I have a meet and greet, which is not sales oriented. I don't try to close unless it's warranted. I just try to get to know them to see if there's a problem to solve. And because we have a limited amount of time. And then I had a call last week where he really needed it. So I made an offer. But the second meeting we're having actually tomorrow, it's going to be yes or no. So we decided that, and we had the meeting a little longer. And then I didn't, want to rush him. I said, well, this is something you need. I know you need it, but if it's something you really want to go for it, then let's have a meeting on Thursday. And he said, great. Yeah. I don't want to make a decision right now. I said, I totally get it. So those calls, the business calls, I would say is 50%. So I don't know if that comes into the factor as well.
And so here's the reason that everyone's here. They want to increase their booked call rate. So for people that are saying 10, 15%, what do you wish that was? Like what do you want to get it to?
Yeah.
And so what you want to get it to and what you want your close rate to be is exactly why we're here. Why not use a tool that can increase your booked rate? And then why not use a methodology that when people are on the call, you can close it in one call or have them say immediately, I'll join another call with you. And they could even promise that they're not going to ghost you.
And I think also there's projects that are a value of say 10K, like lifetime value, which are easier to close versus having 500K IT project may be different numbers and different decision makers and number of meetings. For example, the meeting I was supposed to have this morning was a pretty good big job. Well, for me, it would have been a 6 month, 3 to 6 month job or something like that, which is not a huge job, but I take on certain size jobs for a team of. I have 35 developers, but usually most of those projects take about 5 people, on at one time, and those guys are pretty busy. So I have a meeting, and then they'll have something come up, and you have to make a change in the meeting, you know. And so the journey to get the right meeting is sometimes a little bit longer. So what I did was I did the text thing. We showed use Scoop, sent the individual text. Text had a video. He says, you know what? I like the Scoop thing. Can you create a one pager? So I was like, think about kill two birds with one stone. He says, oh, by the way, this project might be a good idea for you. So I try to arrange a meeting with him, but he's hiking, you know. And then he says, oh yeah, just talk to so and so. But I don't have so and so's number. So you have to kind of go through some hoops, and then you have to figure out the email and all this other stuff. And you send it to him, and then we're supposed to meet, and then makes a change to the meeting. And so it's not always a linear line. So if I had to say the number of steps to get to this meeting, and I'll probably have two more meetings before I close the deal. It's really about connecting the dots on a lot of those. And so
It
when you're
is
talking about close rate, in my head, I'm trying to figure out, you're talking about closing the deal from that journey.
because there's one of my mentors that has a 97% close rate, and he's got the one call close, and another one has an 80% close rate, but it takes him 2 years to close, and he has to do over
Mm,
20 meetings. But when he
okay, got it.
closes one of those deals after 2 years, it's worth millions of dollars because he sells to the government. So government contracting is different. B2B deals, depending on the size of the deal and the levels in the organization, you might be talking to the one person that's going to pull out their credit card or give you an automatic payment of the invoice in the next 15, 30 days.
Well, the government you're talking about.
So that can take time. Having the right methodology keeps your close rate really high. And I see, Caesar, you said my close rate today is 10, and even doubling it to 20 would be great. So I ask you, Caesar, and everyone else, like, what's the value of one closed deal? Like, what's the average ticket for you, Caesar, that your team or that you close? Like, you could just say, hey, it's between 5 and 10,000, or it's 1,000, or somewhere over 30K. And anyone else in here too, just drop in like what an average deal like an ideal deal size is.
Yeah, I could say this much for me because I make it a shift. So I have the volume sales and stuff like that. So it's brand new. So the math on that is going to be really wonky. So 15 to 3K a month, 4 to 6 months. So let's just say 15 for 6 months, 3, 6, 7,500 on the mid level for him.
Mhm.
$7,500. Yeah. Field is saying 15K to 50K for his engagement. And he does initial engagements and then extends his engagements. And he does AI services to incorporate savings, for teams and to seek additional business opportunities that can be supported on through him.
And these are great deal sizes and deal lengths in that we're talking about 7,500, 15K, 50K. You definitely want them as soon as they're on the conversation to go, all right, this is feeling good to me. I'm glad I joined. It's as if you invited them to the birthday party and they feel like you're a good guest. And you want that good guest feeling in their head. And by the end of the call, when you invite them to the next call, which I always do during the call, I say, hey, what's better for you, Tuesday at 2 or Wednesday at 1? And I immediately send them the invitation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just sent it to you. I don't put any of the Zoom stuff in there. I do it later. Okay, double check that you got it. Make sure you might have a dentist appointment that you want to skip anyway and talk to me. You got to be fun and relatable. So
Yeah.
make a joke in there and then say, okay, when you see the invite, click on it. And then on your end, you could go, okay, waiting a little time for technology to catch up with your click. And then you hit refresh. And when you see that green check, immediately go to something fun and relational and say, hey, I'm looking forward to meeting with you next week. And by the way, this is going to be good. And when we connect again, I'll be able to tell you and show you how we can solve that problem. So all of a sudden, you go from being, oh, I'll just follow up with you next week or we'll find a time. That's not going to happen because the relational connection is right now, they're talking to you. And when they
Mm-hmm.
click yes, that's like a commitment to saying, I'll go to your birthday party. So
So there's
that's,
no time like the present. And
yes.
so you have to have everything tightened up. So now we're getting into talking about framing the conversation. And some of the things that I've heard and that I haven't done yet is that on my booking link, they'll schedule some time and they'll show up to the Zoom or whatever, right? But you do have some tire kickers or people that don't show up. And so I think keeping it really tight and clear allows them to say this is important enough to show up and it'll increase your show up rate. And one thing we didn't do on the show is we depended on LinkedIn. So we had a lot of people, and then we had the link there, and it didn't convert well. And so typically, what I would do is I would email booking links to the individuals. But since it's on a Zoom, they would have to register and all this other stuff. But now we know that's probably what we need to do moving forward. So tightening it up would have been a good thing. Another thing with the booking link, I've heard that having a video about what the meeting's about and to make sure that they have time to do that and whatever the spiel is, it really keeps them in top of mind and keeping the meeting actually more important. Um, I don't know if you have any frame call suggestions or if you agree or disagree with what I'm saying.
I agree. And this is what I would say to anyone that's on the call today. As a good call to action later, reach out to Troy and book time with him and see like the layers behind of the system that he's put in place because there's so much value in that. And if any of you have a call that you did a pitch on and it didn't close and you want to figure out why, give me your Fathom recording or your Zoom recording. And I'll diagnose what went wrong at no cost. I'll just give you my insights on, hey, why and how did it fail? And I think that's the cool thing about what Troy does is you can look at your systems and figure out, oh, there's where I'm not doing well. Here's how I could make things better. Because it,
Yeah, I think we're all always improving. I did a switch and this was a little bit of experiment and we're in the holidays, but I'm sure next time it'll be a lot more people. And at the end of the day, it's not all lost because we have their emails and then we're recording this and it's very valuable. What I suggest for everyone is that session, that scoop session. Mark, if Mark will be available on that Tuesday and Thursday of next week. So if you want to book some time, we can have a deeper conversation on the systems or the strategies to frame a call. I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time. I know we're at the top of the hour, but what would you say, as far as major steps on framing the call? I think those are tactical things. I know that during the call, we talked about eye contact. I talked about before the call and the booking to have a video or something that will not just entice them, but looks like you put more effort into it, to put more value into it. And so they understand uh, very clearly on what they expect on the call. And also we talked about how to use the power of no in our favor. So, is this a bad time? And no, it's not a bad time. Are you opposed to this? And there's certain terminologies and ways to speak and also being well put together. So I'm a little loosey goosey sometimes, and I'm very well put together in the systems. But as far as individuals, I'm not as outgoing naturally as a lot of other people.
I'll give you all that sort of the reminder nugget of the take home pieces. Once you know why they've joined the call and you show the backup that you can solve that problem and overcome it, just ask them, all right, now I can overcome that. What are the chances of you actually just saying yes to me right now? Scale 1 to 10, just level with me, just like in the movie Dumb and Dumber. And they'll just say, here's where I have you at right now. And then what can I make you what can I make it an 8, 9, or a 10? And we can do onboarding immediately. They'll just tell you. So why not know rather than waste their time, fill up their inbox, and you spend hours trying to craft some, I don't know, honestly, some lame follow-up message that they're never going to read anyway.
Yeah, and I like your tone and how you're speaking, and you're asking them a direct question, but it's honest. Versus a lot of times when I ask questions, I'm from the military. I'm too direct, or too stern. And so if you can ask them a question and be honest, you at least know where you stand because the
Yes,
worst thing you do is waste your time.
that's right.
Waste your time on something that's not going to convert over. Um, Caesar, yes, I'll reach out to you. And for the people who book a meeting, we'll provide the book for free. It's called Close in One Sales Call. And if anyone's interested in doing that, feel free to book right now. Does anyone else have any questions or anything like that before we let Mark go and we drop off this call?
Oh man, awesome. Thank you, Troy, for having me on. And thank you, everyone, for joining and sharing your questions and just being real with us as to here's where you are today with your booked uh, call rate or booked percentage, and then where you want to get to. And I think once we're all direct about where we are, where we want to go, the path is a little easier.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Mark. I do appreciate and everyone.